we've done Frölunda in Sweden. We've done Jokerit, Jungalder Mannheim in Germany. We've done Luleå, the women's program in Sweden. We've done Djurgården. Shattuck St. Mary's was the first one, which what a way to start. And then the Dallas Stars Elite program. We've done Zug. We've done Notre Dame, the Okanagan Hockey Academy. There's one or two in there that I'm missing that's going to bother me.
Yeah.
The rest of it, I may just drop a name in there as we go.
Right.
But and even the last one we just did that just came out not that long ago was the Hermantown in Minnesota. So very different settings in all of them too, which was what we were hoping for. You get to see some of the dynamics between Canada and the US and North America and Europe and Sweden and Finland, and how all those kind of relate to each other and how different they are. But also there's key components that, now having done 12, working on 13 of these, that are in every single one of these articles. Like, they all kind of take on a life of their own. There's all kind of an angle or a feature that gets emphasized in the article, but really the basis of these clubs, they all have 2 or 3 really key components that work for all of them.
Yeah. So a couple cool things there. So you talk about being the best at things that are free. That's like a highlight thing that I really like, because I remember hearing you chat about that as well, which I thought was cool. But then you mentioned alignment. When you're talking about, let's say, I would imagine more like an organizational alignment type of thing. What exactly do you mean by that? Because this is something that I've noticed locally, at least, like in the organizations that we're most familiar with, is like there's a lot of disjointed setups. So for example, like if I'm the head coach of my U13 team, I have no idea what the U16 coach is doing. I have no idea what the U10 coach is doing. I might not even have that guy's email. Right? And so that's kind of where my mind goes when you're talking about that. When you're saying alignment, what does that actually mean? And is that something that's consistent through the different organizations that you've looked into, or does alignment mean something different depending on what organization we're talking about?
I think you've hit the nail on the head with that for sure. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we see with organizations, and just being specific to Windsor, Ontario, however far you want to go with that. And by no fault of the coach, it's real easy in the grind of a season as a U13 head coach, like you used as an example, to be worried about the U13 team, and we've got a tournament coming up this weekend, and we've lost a couple of games, and this kid's sick, and this parent's bothering me, and it's easy to silo yourself. But with alignment means U10 to U18 or whatever your program looks like. You're using the same verbiage, you're explaining the same drills, maybe your system is exactly the same. Every coach is in sync with what the other coaches are doing, because what you'll find in very easily and right off the beginning of the year, September seems to be a reteaching month for a lot of programs, because the U12 coach may do something with their breakout or with their neutral zone or whatever, and the U13 coach gets them, and the reaction either is, number one, what the hell have these kids learned, or why can't they understand our system? This is our system, but it's not. If they've never seen it before and they don't know when you say wheel, what that means, or when you have a specific term for, a neutral zone dump or crossing corner or something like that, if they don't know what that means, of course, that's no fault of the kid. That's no fault of the coach. Realistically, that's an organizational problem. So instead of losing September to reteaching, if you've got September to reaffirm what they've learned for the 2 or 3 years before in that, and now you're just adding pieces to it because your U13 coach is a really good skating coach, and he's excellent with ABC. And when you come through the organization, when you get to this year, he is going to put your kid's going to be able to fly when you're done with them. And you've explained that, and you've built that out as an organization. The parents know what's going on when their kid's going through that process. That's why practice looks like this, because he's specifically skilled at teaching skating. He's going to get into everything else. But, the first year you're learning how to skate backwards. The second year you're learning how to pass. You've got it kind of broken down. Jokerit has always used this as their kind of example, and that's why I kind of go back to them quite a bit. Is they teach in the 4 quadrants at the beginning of youth hockey. The first year they will talk about playing offense with the puck. The second year they'll talk about playing offense without the puck. Then it's defending the puck carrier. Then it's defending non-puck carrier. And so every year, the first few years that you're in that program, you win 7-1, you lose 7-1. The conversations you're having after that are, how did we do playing offense with the puck? Did we create space for the puck carrier? Did we create space so we could get open for the puck carrier? They're much more in Europe compared to North America, and it's a different runway, so it's not apples to apples, but they're much more deliberate with how they teach the game along the way, as opposed to trying to give kids everything every year. The comparison that I've used for that, my daughter's in grade 4, like she's not learning everything. She's learning what's the grade 4 curriculum. So in grade 5, she will build on what she learned in grade 4 and in grade 6 and so on and so forth, where I feel like, and this is where it kind of gets, you could go into any number of angles, whether it's parental pressures or the cost of playing or the limited ice time or whatever that looks like. We tend to want to throw everything at these kids all at once, because at the end of the year we want to say, well, look, we taught them forecheck, back check. We look at this kid's, when, I mean, I know my capacity to learn all that stuff isn't that great, and I'm 43. Imagine an 11-year-old. Like they wouldn't be able to process that.
Yeah, and but like that's one of my frustrations is things are so, at least in our area, with most of the places that I'm familiar with, is they're looking for that result when they're young, and like the outcomes are so important, and like exactly what you said, whether you win 7-1 or lose 7-1, we're talking about this. Like this is what our focus is, and that consistency of messaging, whether we are winning or losing, you actually can kind of stick to a plan now. And like there's so many different parallels. Like the education system is a great one. When you show up for grade 5 math, you spend the first little bit reviewing grade 4 math, and then you move on. I don't have to reteach grade 4 math my way, right? It's like we can just take the next step.
Yep. And they're not teaching you all a calculus
exactly
in grade 5. It's okay. As you get further on in the year, and that U13 window is a great one when it starts becoming, we're starting to introduce body checking and all that's, like, you can teach that early. You can show them what that looks like. You don't have to give them the whole thing, but here's something to get ready for. And that's where we go back to alignment, and with coaches, like when you talk about things we can do for free or things that are easy for organizations to do, I ask organizations that I've talked to, how many times has your U14 coach ran a U12 practice? How many times has your U12s skated with your U14s? Like, if you're not blending that together, because that's the extra benefit to that, is you're creating the culture in the community that, in the world of open borders and what this is going to look like over the next couple of years, it's going to be harder and harder for organizations to do that. But if you're able to, as an organization, lay out to a parent, this is, from U10 to U18, this is what your child's experience is going to look like. They're going to learn this along the way, because bam, when it's draft year, we've already got all this stuff. We've had a whole year in doing this, as opposed to 8 things a year every year, and you're able to really build a culture around what your organization is. I think, if anything else, one of the biggest takeaways from that is, European clubs, North American clubs, whatever it is, the clubs that do it right, the name on the front is the ultimate decider. At Frölunda, like Frölunda is Frölunda. The U13 coach is not Frölunda. Like the U13 coach is coming into Frölunda to teach what Frölunda teaches, not the other way around. Where if you got an organization that has 8 different age groups, you don't have 8 different teams. You've got one organization with 8 coaches that are teaching your philosophy.
Yeah, and it allows, the reason I love that is because it allows coaches to be able to take a breath and not have to address the most pressing issue right now necessarily, right? So from a development standpoint, if there's a deficiency that pops up, like you go to whatever tournament and you get smacked, whatever, and the parent complaint is, well, we don't have a great neutral zone. It's like you can find comfort in the fact that we're sticking to a curriculum, we're sticking to a system. It's not about the neutral zone, man. Like, and they will all know that because they have been educated on that before they join the program. Where now, like, man, you get the heat from some parents, and it's really easy to feel that pressure and feel like you have to jump and cater to that thing right now. And when you're not in a system like that, it makes it really challenging because everything kind of starts and stops with you as the head coach, for example. And there's not really anything outside of your team. It's just your team is the system. I have you for maybe 12 months, maybe. And when you really break that down, maybe it's only 8 months that you're seriously influencing them. And with a 12-year-old, like over 8 months, there's a lot of development. But in the grand scheme of their progression as an athlete in general, not even just a hockey player, so much needs to happen that is not in your control. You might have them for 3 hours a week for practices.
And that's
It's
just
like,
it.
and so
Great point.
so with all that kind of said, like